In the last video, we had a look at conditional formatting that looked at the particular values you've got, looked at various criteria, and then applied, for instance, backgrounds or foregrounds or borders or fill styles based on whether they fulfilled that criteria. We're now going to look at conditional formatting that varies from that in two ways. It doesn't look at the criteria, at least not in the way that we did previously, and, well, you'll see the other way. So let me just remove the conditional formatting that we've got from this range. And actually, let's remove the background color as well. Right, so for this, we can choose to have three different styles of conditional formatting. Data bars. Now, data bars are basically what they say. They are a bar which has its length based on the data. So the smaller the data, the thinner the bar. So you can see that somewhere we've got a really massive bar somewhere. There we go. So if I reduce this down to size, you'll see that because the maximum has come down, all of the others have now grown in length. And similarly, if I reduce the next one in size, so one that occupies the entirety of the bar, there's two actually. If I reduce that down to size, the others then grow in length a bit more. So this is called data bars. So you can either have them as a gradient fill, which means that they are solid on the left-hand edge and then get progressively lighter as you get towards the right-hand edge, so you can actually see the data that's contained therein. Or you can have it as solid. So if I highlight this section again and change this so that it's now a solid bar, so you can see the difference between that, say, and that. Personally, I like the more graded fills, but it's entirely down to you. Now, just in case these colours aren't exactly the ones you want, and there's only a range of 6 colours here and 6 colours there, then you can click on More Rules. And while there's a lot up here, it's this bottom bit I really want to concentrate on. This is the bar appearance. So you can have a solid fill or gradient fill, and you can choose from the 16 million different colours exactly what colour you want. So let's say I wanted that sort of colour. So maybe a bit light, but let's maybe darken it. So I'll go back in and I want a darker colour. There, that's better. And a gradient fill. There we go. So that's one way of having a look, not just at criteria, not at the top 10%, but having a look at all of your data. And in case you're wondering, yes, it does handle negative values as well, like that. So another way is using the colour scales. So what this does is rag rating, red, amber, green, for example, based on what particular values you have. It can then put them into certain buckets. So some will be put into a red bucket, some will be put into a less red bucket, and so forth. So you can see, for instance, I've put a red, amber, green, and you can see the smallest amounts have got a red highlighting, and then you go into the lighter colours, and then the colours which are biggest have got a green colour. So let's just have a look at that again. So you can see the various colours up there. So if I just highlight that and go back in, so you can see we've got greens and then yellows and a red there. So we can have rag rating green, yellow, red, or we can have red, yellow, green if you want it the other way around. Or you could just have it 2 colours. So in other words, you can have 3 colours, green, yellow, red, or you can have 2 colours, in this case green, white. And again, if the colours you want aren't quite what you want, then you can click on more rules, and again at the bottom we have this formatting, so we can go from, let's go from grey to, it's not grey, what colour is that? Tan it's called, to a darkish blue. Now don't go too dark, otherwise you won't actually see the value, but there we can see we're going from one set of colours, this set, to another. Now you can combine the two that we've just had. You just need to make sure whether it's actually worth it in terms of the presentation, because you can have, well, firstly they present the same sort of information, whether it is dark or not and how wide the bar is, but secondly, is it starting to get a bit overload? Don't know. The other thing that you can do is an icon set, and this actually inserts into the cell an icon depending on which top, middle or bottom it's in. So don't necessarily think that the down means it's a low, it's going down figure, it just means that it's a low figure. So some of these will be misleading. I mean, here we can see that these are in the second tier, whereas these are in the bottom tier, but it doesn't mean that it's actually going down. If this was a difference column, then that might be useful to have a down and up. Let's find an up one. They'll probably be, it's very difficult to find an up one. There'll be one here somewhere. There we go. Now personally I would only use those to show movement, as I say. Instead we have got non-arrow things like shapes. So we have traffic lights, indicators, and you can decide whether you want 3 or 4 or 5 different indicators. We've got other indicators here, flags, ticks and X's, and then we've got stars. So this I think could work for me. So we go from 1 star all the way up to it gets filled in. So go from 1 star all the way up to a filled star in this particular case. Or you could have the sort of mobile phones, strength signals that are often used, or you could have filled blocks. Or basically you've got to ask yourself what would really work in your particular circumstance. What would you like to see? So there's a lot here. I'm not going to go through it right now. I'm going to leave some of this for the expert level. But there's just two other things I'd like to point out in here. Firstly, you can reverse the order. And secondly, you can hide the value and just leave the icon. So, so if I have the mobile phone strength, and I can just show the icon only. So that might, if it was sufficiently clear, as you can see here, be just useful just to have on a cell in its own. Okay, I'm saying, okay, maybe not that useful by itself, or let's add a data bar as well. So with the data bar, it actually shows the values. So it is entirely your choice as to what you want to highlight, and whether, at the end of the day, it's whether it is useful for the end user what you're actually highlighting. But it's good to know that there are an enormous number of things that you can do to highlight particular data or sets of data to your end users.